Okay. All right. Thank you all. This is the April 19th meeting of the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments, and I am going to be reading the meeting convening statement. Benton-Franklin Council of Governments was established by a voluntary association of the local units of government in 1966 with the vision of providing a forum for improved communication, multi-jurisdictional decision-making, regional planning, and the capacity to serve as lead agency in providing multi-jurisdictional programs. The services provided to the member jurisdictions are outlined by the interlocal agreement and can evolve with the needs of the region. Benton-Franklin Council of Government currently fulfills the following designations on behalf of the Benton-Franklin region: Regional Planning Commission, Conference of Governments, Regional Transportation Planning Organization, Metropolitan Planning Organization / Transportation Management Area, and Economic Development District. The Benton-Franklin Council of Government simultaneously serves as the governing body for the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments, Benton-Franklin Metropolitan Planning Organization Transportation Policy Board, Benton-Franklin Walla Walla Regional Transportation Planning Organization, and Benton-Franklin Economic Development District. We share this information at the beginning of each board meeting to provide context to the information shared and actions taken in the meeting. All right, Michelle, please, we have a roll call.
Okay, roll call for this morning. Ben-Franklin Transit. Sarah Funk, present.
One of us.
Benton County. City of Benton City.
Here.
City of Cornell.
Lee Barrow, present.
Thanks, Lee. City of Kennewick. City of Pasco.
Charles Grimm is here.
Thank you. City of Prosser. City of Richland.
Joanna Jones here.
City of West Richland.
Kate Moran, present.
Franklin County.
Clint Didier.
Port of Benton. Port of Kennewick.
Skip Novakovich.
And Port of Pasco. WashDOT South Central.
Paul Gonseff subbing for Brian White.
Thank you, Paul. You have a quorum.
All right, excellent. Do we have, we should actually vote on the agenda, right? Is that further down
It's right after the introduction, yes.
Oh, there, didn't see that. All right, so do we have guests in the room or online? We will go with in the room first. Yeah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Maria Serra. I'm the interim public works director for City of Pasco, and I have a short presentation later in the agenda for you all.
Excellent, thank you. It looks like everybody else is staff, and all right. So is there anybody online that's a guest? Raise your hand and then we'll call on you. I can't see everybody online.
I don't see any guests.
Okay, well, that being the case, then we will go next into the approval of the agenda. Do I have any motions to approve the agenda?
So move.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, a second by Commissioner Novakovich. All right, so all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Okay. Opposed, same sign. All right, we have approval of the agenda. Next up, we have public comment. Is there anyone to provide public comment? There would just be one person.
I'm not aware that we have any public comment.
All right. Next up, we've got presentations, and we have a presentation. So, Aaron, would you like to introduce who is our presenter?
Yes, our presenter today is from the City of Pasco. It is the interim public works director, Maria Serra, also currently the vice chair of our technical advisory committee. She'll be highlighting some of Pasco's major capital improvement projects. With that, we'll turn the floor over to Maria.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Pasco has a very ambitious capital improvement program, and I'm hoping to walk you through the highlights of the projects that you'll likely see occurring currently and some that we hope to accomplish in the upcoming years. And with that, I wanted to first put this in context. This is a historical trend of our capital improvement planning. This plan is a 6-year plan, and as you see, each color shows the plan developed each year. And as we hone in into the 2023-2024 biennium, you can see that the light orange is the planned capital improvement set of projects for those 2 years, and is vastly bigger than anything before. And we've done a lot of work to get there with design work, so that is in dollars, right? So very complicated way to show millions of dollars on the side, so just take the first 3 digits there. We are looking at 2023 had a capital improvement value of just over $120 million. Followed by 2024 with some really high numbers as well. And this is actually possible through partnerships with other agencies. What you're seeing here is our capital improvement program map, and this is our current projects in construction. Each little tag is a project, so there's plenty, but I will not walk you through every single one, just highlights. And we have a combination of projects. And so what I wanted to show you, as I mentioned before, is how can we afford this? Well, we can afford this because the city has been very, very successful in the last 4 or 5 years in receiving federal and state funds, both in the form of loans and grants. And you can see the amount of dollars we have applied for and the running total of received for City of Pasco. This is specific in this case to public works projects. It does not include facilities and parks, although the previous map and the previous graph did include parks and facilities. And I just wanted to be completely transparent in what the numbers meant. Okay. And as I said, we partner with all kinds of agencies. So on the transportation side is FHWA, NHB, so it's a DOT program, Safer to School, PETPAC program, PIB, and then on the utility side, Public Works Board, Washington State Department of Ecology, Department of Health, EDA in the past also. Our local partners, CDC and Port of Pasco have helped support many of our transportation projects recently, and then other funding mechanisms the city has been utilizing are both LIDs, local improvement districts, especially for utility projects, as well as TIF area, so tax increment financing area. Okay, and with that, we get to the fun part. So City of Pasco is a full service city with providing transportation, utilities, and of course, parks and facilities. Within our utilities, we have 5 utilities. That's potable water, irrigation water, which is separate from our potable, it's just filtered water. And we have a smaller footprint in that service area. Then municipal sewer and industrial wastewater facility that serves our food processors, as well as stormwater utility. Okay. And so we start with our project. The first project I felt I should highlight was the Little Street Overpass project. You are seeing on one side of the screen the underpass, which is currently being demolished and filled. And then the Little Street Overpass with a very recent picture, probably from a couple of weeks ago, which really looks like a bridge already. We are on track to open that bridge to traffic, not today, but next Friday, so a week from now. It's been a monumental effort. It has lots of state funds. Design was actually federally funded, and it's been a long time coming for this project, and we're just thrilled to see it come to fruition and just looking so beautiful. Just so proud of it. And then other transportation project, and I should say them by type so that I wouldn't just like walk you around all the different types of projects. So we're doing transportation first. Is the, I think, and they have some animation in here that something like that. Well, I'm missing the title here. This is the I-182 Broadmoor interchange ramp. This is an addition to the existing interchange to allow for a ramp and then have some, it's a roundabout, so you're seeing a rendering and then an actual drone picture taken about 2 months ago, where you can really see that. And if you drive it, I drove it today, you can see half of that roundabout is already in construction. This project is locally funded through the TIF area, so tax increment financing, and is in support of development that has occurred and is to continue to occur in the Broadmoor area. Very exciting, really, really exciting project. Okay, and I'm gonna go forward if I can. I may need Aaron's help to move forward. Oh, there was the name. Okay. Sylvester Street safety improvements. This project is a state-funded project, has two different, state and federally funded project. It has HSIP funds as well as pet bike funding. It takes care of a corridor that extends east-west, city of Pasco across most of the city. We are modifying the existing configuration of that roadway to include bike lanes. And this corridor is really divided by 395, right, as you can see in the map. So on the eastern side of the corridor is really a restriping project with some updates to our ADA ramps and some tweaking to our existing signals. On the western side of the corridor is a much more involved project where we're building curb gutter and sidewalk, of course installing stormwater facilities there and creating sidewalks on the north side and a multi-use pathway on the south side, allowing with this reconfiguration of the roadway to have a center turn lane. This corridor had many crashes, many of them were serious. And most of them had to do with that left turn with 2 lanes of traffic in the opposing direction. So very excited. This project went up to bid earlier this year, is now in construction. So a little bit tricky to navigate that corridor currently, but totally worth it when we're all done with the improvements. Okay, and next comes Court Street and Road 68 roundabout. This project is federally funded. It has recently received a PID grant, so state funds scheme to help us fully fund the improvements. We are currently out to bid with this project and will improve the intersection of Road 68 and Court. The plans include the installation of a roundabout in the intersection, which will allow for safer crossing of that intersection. We have some unbalanced flows between the volume on Court and then the volume on 68, where there were long delays and some serious crashes as well. So we're taking care of that, and this configuration will allow for pedestrian crossing to be safe. A great improvement. We're out to bid. We hope to have this project in construction the remainder of the year. Okay, and then it's time to talk about future projects for transportation. And I have 2 lists in there. So on the top of the screen, you're seeing the remainder of the projects that we have fully funded at this time, and they are in different stages of planning or beginning design. Sylvester Street Pet Bike Overpass project is the project that will come and bridge that gap that we had in the Sylvester project that we just talked about, to be able to have pedestrian facilities and bike facilities across 395. Then a Safe Route to School project that includes 2 locations for safe crossings, including some additional sidewalk. That is Sandifer and Road 90, as well as Argent and Road 88. These are adjacent to existing schools or nearby schools, allowing for some neighborhoods that didn't have the proper pedestrian crossing for the students to get to their school. 8th Street and 6th Avenue pedestrian crossing, that is a HSIP funded project, that is safety, allowing for a pedestrian crossing with a pedestrian activated flashing beacon. There was a fatality in that intersection, so we were able to receive funds to remediate that situation. This is right in the location where on the south of 8th Street, there is a very dense residential neighborhood. And then to the north, there's all the facilities and access to commercial area in the downtown Pasco. So very needed, very used crossing, although it wasn't absolutely safe. Now we're gonna make it safe. That project is in design currently. And then Lewis Street overlay and Ainsworth Avenue overlay are two federally funded overlays planned for the upcoming years, probably 2026. And then there's the unfunded future projects on the bottom of the screen in more bold letters, so hoping to draw attention to those. The Road 76 overpass project, you probably heard about it. It's a local connection between Burton and Chapel Hill. This is very close to our Road 68 interchange. The interchange is currently hosting both local trips and regional trips, and there are no adequate pedestrian or bike facilities at the time. Really hard to retrofit that interchange to accommodate those. So the proposal is to have a local connection for local trips where we can alleviate congestion and safety concerns in the interchange at 68, and instead take all our local trips through a local connection. This is a bridge just connecting those two streets, and we have vehicles and pet bike facilities safely divided. Then next on my list is the US 12 Tank Farm Road analysis. We have identified some safety concerns with the at-grade crossings along US 12 towards the east, probably exacerbated with some of the industrial development that has occurred and continues to occur. Therefore, wanting to evaluate what solutions could be implemented throughout US 12 and in our local network to allow for safety to increase. And then Lewis Street Corridor is a project that will connect our recently complete Peanuts Park project and our Lewis Street Overpass almost complete project to beautify and provide for a more walkable and multimodal corridor in the main street of the downtown of Pasco. That project is partially funded, and it has been in design for a little bit now, but trying to accommodate also the needs of our business owners. So we are looking into what we need to do to be able to keep them afloat while we are doing the construction. And of course, still pursuing funds for the construction of that phase, of that project, sorry. And then finally, another pet bike bridge to support kind of like the second phase of improvements in the I-182 Broadmoor corridor through TIF. So that's increment financing would fund the ramp improvements, and we're funding some improvements north of the interchange, but we're still pursuing funds for a pedestrian bridge to accommodate pedestrian and bike traffic throughout the existing interchange, which does not accommodate those types of transportation at this time. Okay, and then we move into utilities, and I promise that will be brief. So just plowing through it. Please stop me if you have questions. If something I say doesn't make sense, please stop me. So on the utility side, I will not want to walk you through every single utility, but just an overview of the highest, biggest projects that we have, the biggest projects we have currently going on. So the wastewater treatment plant expansion project is a two-phase project. Phase one has been completed, recently received recognition by APWA as project of the year for last year. So we're really thrilled to share this project with you too. This is the expansion to our municipal sewer plant. It's the only plant City of Pasco has for sewer treatment prior to disposal into the Columbia River. The intent of this phase project is to double the capacity of that plant. Phase one is complete, phase two is in construction. So in 2 years, we'll be able to accommodate all 11 million gallons a day of sewage that is expected to be received at that plant. And that project was actually funded through low interest loans from the Department of Ecology. Another huge project is, I'm so sorry. Process water reuse facility. This is our industrial facility serving our food processors. It's located just north of Pasco within Franklin County. This facility currently serves 6 processors, and we are expecting to serve 7 with Derigo being added as one of our users. We have plans of, well, our processors have plans of expansion, which really triggered with they're all coming to the city, plus the expansion of existing users, the need for biological treatment to be included in this facility. The facility really pre-treats that industrial wastewater, and it's just wash water. I need to make that clear. It's wash water from produce that is processed in those private facilities. That effluent is sent to the facility through two pump stations and force mains that exist in two different service areas. And historically, we just pre-treated with some level of like removal of grit and sedimentation, and then we were sending that effluent to farm fields owned by the city and leased to farmers for land application and final treatment and disposal. Currently, with these improvements, there's a series of improvements, 4 phases. Phase 1 is done, phase 2 is in construction, phase 3 is in construction, and phase 4 is in design. With these improvements, we would be able to do biological treatment and remove some of the BOD and nitrogen from that effluent, and then again pump it out to the fields and land apply for final treatment and disposal. This project is super cool because it has gotten a lot of attention also, and you may have heard about it, especially phase 3, because the biological treatment includes the recouping of some of the gases generated through the treatment, and then generation of renewable natural gas, which is injected into the network for natural gas within our region, which is much needed for industry, continued industry growth. And along with that, we have implemented for nitrogen removal a very green, play on words, but it's a real green initiative through in which the treatment is generated by rotating film that grows algae, and the algae is then recouped and could be used at minimum level for what am I trying to say? Compost or some kind of like aiding in growth of plants, but really there is studies going on for some other higher value uses such as biofuel and bioplastics. So this is a great system. It's a little bit more innovative than having just a regular bioreactor that would just remove that nitrogen, and we are seeing the ability to kind of have a circular economy within the work that we're doing in this facility, really living the spirit of the synergy, right? The industrial symbiosis. So it has gotten a lot of attention. If you want to have a tour, please let us know. We're thrilled to walk you through the construction of the project, and when it's done, you can come see how it works. Along with that phase, which is the biological treatment, is the phase 3. Phase 2 is building 300 million gallons of storage. To give you an idea, the pond that you see in the screen that has water in it is 110 million gallons, 115. So 300 million gallons is the whole 80 acres to the north that you're seeing further away from the screen there. That is disturbed just like dirt. That's going to be 3 ponds, each one the size of that big pond that you're seeing in the screen. So really cool, big projects. Phase 4 will just expand our land disposal system. Okay, that was a lot of information. That is a really cool one. And then a series of potable water projects that have occurred, they're all intertied. One is the West Pasco Water Treatment Plant expansion. This is one of the 2 water treatment plants the city owns and operates. We are doubling capacity currently with the projects that are underway. Phase 1 is done, phase 2 is underway. Phase 3 and 4 are in design and will triple the original capacity of the plant. So the aim is to have this plant produce 18 million gallons a day to serve both residential, commercial, and industrial. I should not say both, I should say all of them, all the uses within the city, and allow for some relief at the time that we tackle the improvements at the other water treatment plant, which needs improvements, and we'll see that in our future projects. Along with improvements to the water treatment plant in West Pasco, We are building a reservoir that will store some of that treated water to account for the higher uses in our highest elevation area of the city. So it's a Zone 3 reservoir tank. You've probably seen it. It's just off of Broadmoor and Burns Road. It's green right now, but it will be white at some point and have the city logo. This project is the first project the city has done as an alternative delivery method through progressive design build, a great success for the city through using an alternative delivery method. The project is on track to be finished here in the summer. Technically, it's currently ready to be operational, but since we don't have the immediate need to have it operational, we are allowing for the work to occur with less risk for our workers. So we are really excited to see this project coming to fruition. And in between the plant and the reservoir, we have a transmission main that is being built, a 24-inch, going between the plant and the reservoir. Okay. And with that, future projects for utilities. We talked about the West Paso water treatment plant. This is the last phase, the one that would take us from 12 to 18 million gallons. We just received funds from the Department of Health in the form of a low interest loan. So we are advancing that design. And then comes some sewer interceptor improvements near the river. That project has partial funding through the Department of Ecology. We are about to begin design for it. With all the growth in the city, we have the need to continue to improve our existing network to be able to have enough capacity, right, for conveying all that sewer to our wastewater treatment plant, which we saw is being expanded. And then we have a series of stormwater projects, which we're pursuing funds for. Northwest Irrigation Pump Station, as I mentioned, we have a separate irrigation system from our potable water system, and it really alleviates the demands on highly treated water, which is great for the city and great for the users, since it's a much more affordable way to irrigate their lawns. This project will allow for us to expand our area of service with all the growth that has occurred in the northwest of the city, and is a partnership with the South Columbia Irrigation District, where we take their end-tail water and we pump it into our system, and of course we're leasing water from them for that purpose. It also eliminates individual agreements with some subdivisions for them with Skivet, right? Instead, we are kind of like doing one single agreement with Skivet and managing it as part of our rate system, which is I think to the benefit of both agencies. And then I mentioned the PWRF Phase 4, which is that irrigation improvement that allows us to expand our land disposal system. And then highlighted too that need more support from us and more work still is the Battlefield water treatment plant improvements. This is going to be the biggest and oldest water treatment plant. You're seeing the pictures in the screen. One is the existing configuration on the top, and then the proposed configuration at the bottom. That water treatment plant currently produces 21 million gallons a day. The intent is to bring it back to its nominal capacity to 30 million gallons a day. It's a full replacement in a phased approach, since it's a huge investment. Very needed, and we are slowly collecting funds to design. Design is underway, and later we'll be tackling construction funds and a phase that is able to be supported by our ratepayers. And finally, a Zone 2 reservoir storage tank, very similar to Zone 3 that we just saw pictures of. Zone 2 also requires another storage tank, currently operates without storage, and that is a risk, especially since that zone in our water system is the one that supports most of our food processors. So, and there's a lot of plant development in that area with lots of exciting types of developments, including maybe some tribal development, some more industrial development, lots of commercial and some residential as well. So I think with that, I have covered quite a bit of ground. That's my contact information. If you ever want to know anything about any project that is going on, any other initiative, traffic calming, you name it, give me a call. I can tell you what we're doing. And thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. That was a very in-depth presentation, so thank you very much. Are there any questions, either online or in person here?
I have a staff question, but wait and see what the board and what our board has first.
Okay. Skip, I saw that you are unmuted. Did you have a question?
No, I don't right now. Thank you.
Charles, here we go. See your hand.
Thank you very much. No, very in-depth, yes, Interim Director Sarah. I mean, this is the stuff we're dealing with week to week, and we have a lot of things going on in Pasco, as you guys can see, and very proud of all the work staff is doing and the frontline help of accomplishing all these tasks. We are a growing city, and we're seeing the fruit of that right now. I mean, it's hard to go anywhere in Pasco without seeing some orange cones, and I know that's frustrating to the public and commuters and such, but things will be so much better in the short term. But I really appreciate Maria having the Road 76 overpass right at the top of her future projects. This one's really near and dear to my heart. I was talking recently with Senator Binky about it. You guys, we all know it's very arguable. The Road 68 interchange area is the most congested area in the entire Tri-Cities. I mean, let's face it, there's people that say they just avoid the area. And, you know, being a business owner in the city of Pasco and a resident, and, you know, it just really hurts my heart that people want to avoid an area of our city altogether just because of how bad the traffic is. So when I was discussing this with Senator Binky, he said, and I was trying to get a plan going forward for this overpass, he said it really, in his past and his experience, it begins with the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments. So just wanted to put another plug in, you know, as we plan for the year to come and going forward, if this can just get put on the docket, become a priority, just to really relieve congestion, not only in Pasco, but just really throughout the region, would be very appreciated. So again, thank you, Interim Director Sarah, for a great update of everything going on in Pasco, though just kind of a flyover level of it. Just really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Grimm. Commissioner Didier, I see your hand. Oh, there it is.
Yes. My concern is Highway 12, the tank farm. Is that in conjunction with Amazon that's put up the two big buildings and the anticipation of the first one opening up? I believe we're going to have what, as Charles has called on Road 68, congestion, far worse with the trucks and the people coming to work there. When those buildings open up, there's going to be a lot of traffic on Highway 12. I really believe we need a cloverleaf overpass there for that. Is that what's in store, or what are we looking at on Highway 12?
Thank you for that question. So the intent at this time is to evaluate what solutions could be implemented. We have been in conversations with DOT, and I know Paul could add anything he would like to add to this. And we understand that adding an overpass may not be the preferred alternative at this time. So the intent is to go through the process of identifying need and risk, therefore finding solutions that will be acceptable to both the city and DOT, and work jointly in an analysis that would allow us to find solutions, right, and maintain safety. Paul, I see you may want to add to it.
No, I just want to thank you for your response. Yeah, when Amazon came in, we've worked cooperatively with the city of Pasco to do the SEPA and traffic analysis. They are intending to use the Lewis Street interchange as their main point of contact, point of on and off 12, which currently does not really have any big issues, and we'll be monitoring as we go up. They did do some minor work there at one of the intersections to do a right turn pocket to get some of their traffic off. So we're working on that. We're trying to make what we have work efficiently because right now there is no funding tied to another improvement down there. And like Maria has said, sometimes trying to get those big projects would take a very long time, but we're also looking at what can we do with a lower cost, maybe combining the tank farm and the other intersection and making one point of contact and creating maybe a roundabout or something to do interim. But as you discuss, as the area continues to grow, the placement of a new intersection may be at the place where we could have a new interchange at some point in the future. But we're looking at a study to figure out basically just kind of what I described, the process and how do we move forward with this. And Pasco did have that in the budget at one time, which the governor did veto. We as in DOT do not have money to perform that study at the moment ourselves, but would be looking forward to working cooperatively with Pasco to help us find a solution to that area.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions online in person? If not, I've got a few questions, not very many. Not seeing any. I was just wondering about the circle that's going to be at Court and Road 68, that roundabout there. I know that from some circle roundabout issues in West Richland, I'm curious if you are planning on putting in metering already, or if that's something maybe in the future you're thinking about. How many lanes are currently in that circle that you're planning, and if you have room for expansion if needed?
Well, actually, we had done an analysis on projected flows and volumes, and we do not anticipate needing to make the roundabout any bigger than what is going to be built now. So this will be our final configuration based on what can be developed surrounding that area. Most of it is developed already. Never say never, right? It's like 20 years from now, redevelopment occurs, maybe we go vertical and volumes change. But with the current projections, right, based on GMA, that area only has so much capacity to build more. So it would be a one-lane roundabout, and we do not plan to have metering at this time. We evaluated at the beginning of the project whether a signal would serve us better, and actually it functioned worse than the roundabout. So we opted for the roundabout. We needed some right-of-way acquisition, which has already occurred, to be able to fit it in the footprint, right, of what we needed to do and ensure that we had the right division between all the entries and exits. And we are hoping that this would be the solution to really alleviate that north-south and kind of like left turn movement that right now has a lot of delay and some crashes.
Fair. Yeah, no, I know that, well, there's talk, and there was a circle that ended up turning into a signal.
Yes.
With a lot more lanes, and there was the issue where we wouldn't be able to expand to 2 lanes. And the discussion about metering, which is in the past, so I won't go into that again. But yeah, I was curious if that was something that was looked into. I did want to say that the processing water reuse facility, I would love to get a tour of that, so I'll contact you to get a tour of that and get more information. Other than that, that was a lot, and I am going to have to look at the recording again to see all of it, and maybe contact you or somebody at Pasco later to get more information. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any further comments?
A couple of
yes,
questions
staff,
from
yeah.
staff perspective, and this is from the Economic Development District and potential EDA loan perspective. And if you don't have the answers top of mind, I know you and I are going to set up a meeting in the coming weeks to discuss this. But for the Lewis Street Corridor project, and I'm somewhat familiar with it, but what sources do you have the secured funds already? What is your shortfall? And has there been a study done on job and business creation as a result of those improvements?
Okay, may not have the answers to all of it.
That's a fine.
So it has a combination of funds from state and federal sources, as well as local funds. The shortfall is quite big, actually, at the time. We have design was funded, although some funds have been reallocated as a relief program for those street overpass business impacts. So design was fully funded, now it's no longer fully funded. And construction was never funded, so that is about $7 million. As far as study on job creation, there was an analysis, but I cannot, I could not tell you exactly what was
Sure.
that range, so.
But if you've got the numbers, that helps as well.
I think so. Just based on vacant businesses and, storefronts and potential for development, I think that there was a performance.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. All right, well, if there are no others, again, thank you so much for the presentation. I'm gonna have to relook at all of that because that's a lot, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, next we have the consent agenda, and I will read out what those items are on the consent agenda. For A, we have the voucher summary of March 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2024 of $117,039.86 on page 3. For B, we have approval of minutes from the regular meeting held March 15th, 2024, which is on page 4 of the packet. For C, we have 2024 through 2027 Transportation Improvement Plan amendments from Benton-Franklin Council of Governments Amendment 24-April, which is on page 8 of the packet. Unless anyone is wanting to move anything from there, I would accept any motion, of course. Particularly
Madam
when
Chair, I move approval of the consent agenda as shown on the screen and as you described.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there is a movement and a second for the consent agenda to be approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, the consent agenda is approved. Next up, we have reports. So that looks like the first one would be for Aaron.
Yes, thank you. First item we have is 8A1, which is the 2024 Transportation Improvement Program obligation status. A quick refresher for the board. Our board members, as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, Benton-Franklin Council of Governments is required to put out an obligation authority target each year. That is how much money the jurisdictions will spend over the federal fiscal year, so ending September 30th. And that's made up of funds from the Surface Transportation Block Grant, the Transportation Alternatives Program, and the Carbon Reduction Program. That gets all lumped together into one target that's commonly referred to as the obligation authority target. So for this year, our region's target was 3.85 million. We've had 5 projects to obligate, and since our last board meeting, thank you City of Pasco, we've had 1 project obligate, and that was the Road 68 Court Street intersection improvements obligating for 1.5 million. So our remaining target for the rest of the year is just north of 1.1 million. But given that we still have some very large projects on the books, everything is looking very good for us to meet our target. Any question on this item before we move on? All right, next is the Transportation Improvement Program TIP workshop. This is something we're doing for the first time. On Wednesday, May 15th from 1 to 2:30, the COG will be hosting a regional TIP workshop put on by Tanner Martin. This workshop will focus on the TIP document, how it's developed, everybody's roles and responsibilities, and how each jurisdiction's TIP goes from their level to our level to the statewide level and how they all interplay, and how to navigate the phenomenal Secure Access Washington system software. This workshop will aim to improve collaboration, better understanding of each agency's responsibilities and tasks, and deadlines when developing this. So if you would like to tune in for that, it'll be on May 15th. We'll also record it if anybody would like to watch it after.
I was just about to ask.
Any questions on this before we move on to number 3? All right. Number 3 is our regional bicycle plan kickoff series review. So last month reported to the board that we were holding a kickoff series for the regional bike plan. We hosted a series of kickoff open houses on March 19th, 20th, and 21st in the Pasco, Richland, and Kennewick Library. Sorry, West Richland. Each open house averaged about 20 to 25 attendees. The main areas identified as barriers or desired connections were shown in your packet in a list, and then also shown on this map. Just as a quick overview, some of the main things that were pointed out were desired east-west connections in the city of Richland, connecting over to West Richland. Van Giesen was the most highlighted road throughout all of the different workshops. Desired north-south connections in Pasco and the city of Kennewick, and specifically in Kennewick, a way for people to access the river much easier. And then in the city of Pasco, for people when they're on the river to be able to travel north and south, say to CBC. So this, we'll be holding our first working group meeting next Wednesday to further develop the plan. So I will report back on that next month. Any questions on this before moving on to the next item?
I'll just make a comment that, yeah, I agree. That'd be great to have some connectivity there and know that we're gonna see how that works with the Ironman 70.3
Yes.
coming up later this year, see how that works out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you.
Now, this is for the bike route.
Yeah, for our regional, this is for the regional bike plan. That is different than the bike map that we're also producing.
Okay, gotcha.
And you said that there was a working group meeting next
Yeah.
week?
Correct, on Wednesday, the 24th.
Who all attends that normally?
So this one is being put out to all of the jurisdictions, and not to spoil my general update item, but as we've established communication and kind of a forum working with the planners, we put it out to the TAC members and to the planning directors of who they want to represent their jurisdiction on the working group. So actually, there'll be a few planners that have said, yeah, I believe it's Alicia from West Richland who is representing, and then there's gonna be different public works directors on it. We'll also have some organizations outside of the traditional jurisdictions that will be there. The first meeting will be about really who is missing from the room and then what direction we want to be headed.
Thank you very much.
All right, so my general update. So last month we had a great discussion on the MPO, RTPO greenhouse gas performance targets. So just after our board meeting on March 27th in North Texas, there was a decision ruled that DOTs are being nullified from passing these greenhouse gas targets right now. So that's been passed on to our WashDOT and down to the MPO. So right now we are not required to submit initial targets or reports. Just wanted to give an update on that for the board. Another thing is we have a transportation management area TMA survey out on our website. If you all would please go take time to fill that out. It takes about 3 minutes. That information will be then used later at the end of this month for our transportation management area review, which is being done by our federal partners and WashDOT. We held our first regional planners meeting on April 10th. It was a great discussion and kind of understanding how we want that forum to work. It's establishing contact with the COG staff here with the planning directors rather than just kind of our traditional forum through the TAC. Eric Mendenhall from West Richland was elected as the vice chair, and our next meeting will be on July 10th. And right now we're aiming to have those meetings be quarterly. They could be moved to bi-monthly. And we're aiming to have topics, so each jurisdiction could come talk about housing or different issues that we want to discuss. We are hosting the first regional bike plan working group on April 24th. We'll be reporting back on the kickoff series, providing an overview of the plan's timeline and how to provide collaborative input on the upcoming survey we'll be releasing in May. This week, we held our Unified Planning Work Program meeting. This helped us understand the format for our upcoming TMA certification meetings, which will be at the end of the month. The federal and state partners were pleased with the COG's work, and they're using our invoices as examples for the rest of the state on how we're describing the work we're getting done each month. So that was really good to hear. And then last but not least, the Washington State Transportation Commission, they're updating their Washington State Transportation Plan. The COG will be hosting the Washington State Transportation Commission again on May 13th from 1 to 3:30. In your packet, it is linked if you would like to RSVP. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Paula. It'll be a hybrid meeting hosted in the conference room here. Any questions?
I have just a comment on the Unified Planning Work Program meeting we had this week. Aaron was very humble in his comments, actually. The federal and state partners really had just exceptional things to say about the work of our planning team, the improvements that they have seen coming out of BFCOG, not just our invoicing, but some other work that we've been done is being used as an example. They even called Tanner out specifically for his work on the tip as well. So they really gave some glowing compliments to the staff. So that was great to hear. And we had some additional conversations about participating on a potential panel with WashDOT in August for the transit conference that's going on. It has to do with MPOs and transit agencies collaborating and some additional activities we may be hosting in upcoming the
MPO, RTPO coordinator.
Yes, the MPO, RTPO coordinating committee meetings that happen quarterly with all of the MPOs. We may be hosting one of those here at our office as well. So great job for our team. You're doing awesome work and it's being noticed.
And thank you to our TAC chair, Roscoe, for showing up and participating at that.
Yes.
Sounds like a West Person takeover.
When Eric was elected, they kind of joked about that. Like, well, that's what happened when you guys volunteered.
Hey, we're small but mighty, what can we say? All right, well, thank you very much, Aaron. And then next up, we have reports from Mr. Atkai on the Economic Development District and local government programs.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Some quick generalized updates. We have not been conducting meetings as robustly as Aaron has, but we have been working diligently behind the scenes on a number of items. So we are into our annual just work on the Community Economic Development Strategy, the CEDS. We are reviewing and amending our eligible project list for each agency. We do have some additions. We do have some items that we are looking for further specificity. Additional specifics, yeah, on. And I think what we're looking at is ways that we want to tie in infrastructure and utility projects, but also construction and facility projects with how it facilitates job creation, permanent job creation. You can certainly list a construction project as having, it's 100 people working on the project itself. But we want to see how this is conducive to economic development and business growth, hence some of my questions to Ms. Sarah earlier. So we will be working with not only traditionally our public works teams for all of our member jurisdictions and agencies, but touching base with planners and the economic development staff to really refine that list and how it meets with our goals as well. As we always go through and do our generalized updates before our giant major update in 2025, second quarter will also be focusing on just touching up and making sure that our economics and demographic profile that we outline in there is up to date as well, depending upon the data that's available to us. Additionally, for the Economic Development District, we are convening our first advisory committee meeting on May 1st. 9 of our 10 charter members will be able to attend, and the main focus of that really is to talk about the purpose and the mission of the committee, how it will be working to advise on amendments and direction of the SEDS document, as well as any other relevant economic development district items that they would need to propose and advise this body, the BFCOG board on. So really introduction meeting, bringing forth people from the public and private sector to really chart our regional economic development goals. Before I move on to local government programs, are there any questions on economic development districts?
I'm just curious for the advisory council, I'm sure that we had spoken about it at one point, who all was involved in that? Is that mainly the economic development directors or?
Yeah, we do have, whether it's planning / economic development, we do have representatives from the ports, we do have representatives from construction, from arts and culture, we do have a tribal representative from Confederated Tribes of the Umatillas. There are, as part of the board bylaws, there are other industry representatives that we are still looking to reach out to. So part of that meeting on May 1st will be, hey, who do you know in advanced manufacturing and agriculture and other areas that would be willing to serve on this committee? This meets quarterly. There might be some subcommittee work that's a little bit more active, but really wanted to round out more of the public-private and nonprofit arts perspectives on the regional sets.
Okay, and is there a way to find out online, or would you be able to tell us which roles are currently missing from there?
Yeah, I'm currently building that page of our website.
Perfect.
With our current membership, we'll be posting our agendas there, minutes, packets, that sort of thing as needed. And then, the listing of the roster plus, hey, if you know someone in these various fields, by all means, send them my way.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Yeah, you
I
bet.
love that we're putting this stuff online because I hate bothering you guys during the day.
Yeah, no, and once that page is active, we'll let the board and their membership know as well.
Perfect, thank you so much.
So moving on to generalized local government programs, we are still working through we're calling it the Economic Resiliency Program, but that is what is funded through ARPA dollars from Benton-Franklin counties. So as we work with the county and the communities within, just to identify technical assistance opportunities to help, build economic resiliency. I'll be attending meetings as needed. That's just our general update since we last met. We do have a number of funding opportunities out that we have moved to our website as well. The main thing that we've been working on the last month with members and our federal staff is the Congressional Direct Spending Program. Since we last met, the COG has provided 18 letters of support for these applications through Senator Murray or Senator Cantwell's office to assist 8 agencies. So some agencies went to both senators' offices for that. That includes our cities and counties, but also some of our port partners as well, help provide that letter of support. We are tying that into our regional SEDS goals as well, hoping that helps them achieve their congressional direct spending goals. The NOFOs, the Notice of Funding Opportunities, we've had a pretty big dump of those to us. We've identified 15 opportunities, both federal and state. We forwarded that on to membership, and we have that posted on our website as well, with regular updates too. So as those come across my desk, make sure that we get them out to the teams and to our group. And finally, just some technical assistance and support. We are still holding our bi-monthly Congressional Connections meetings. We had one on March 20th, which we hosted 4 agencies with the staff of Newhouse, Cantwell, and Murray. And we did extend the invite post-legislative session to our state elected officials in Olympia. So we had 6 people attend from all of our districts in Benton-Franklin County. Great conversation. They learned a lot about federal programs. They were also offering some state programs that might help our communities in collaboration. So another great successful congressional connection meeting. We will be looking to host our May meeting on the 2nd or 3rd week. I am working with the Campbell, Murray, and Newhouse staff to see when they would be available. And then once those meeting times are available, we'll be sending them out to membership to sign up. And that's what I have. Unless there's any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions in-house or online? All right, excellent. Thank you very much. And I appreciate all the emails that we're able to get about the notice of funding. And I have a feeling that I'm forwarding it off and that they have already received it, but rather have it more than once than not at all.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's our mantra too.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yes, thank you very much. And again, thank you for putting those on the website as well, when you're able to get those. Excellent. All right. Next up, we have the COG reports from Michelle, from, Executive Director Holt.
COG reports. Okay, so as you know, we support administration of the Tri-City Regional PFD and the Benton County PFD. The regional PFD has been a work in progress. We canceled the April 24th meeting due to an anticipated lack of quorum for that meeting. And that was okay because we've also been working on recommended amendments to the bylaws that could help streamline how often we have to bring that group together and the expectations. Those bylaws were written with the expectation that the regional PFT would have an active project and other activities. And so it's very cumbersome to administer it on everybody's part in its static state. So we're continuing to work on those, and their next regularly scheduled meeting is October. We'll convene them earlier than that if we can get the information together and to work on that simplification. The Benton County PFD, we've been working on some background research about historical budget distribution, and we also had some communication back and forth with the Department of Revenue at the state about the not imminently pending, but in the next few years, both the Richland and Kennewick PFD's bonds are nearing the end of their cycle. And so making sure we were advised about distributions and things for that. So they have their next meeting coming up on April 30th, and that will be our biggest topic, is just making sure we're prepared for how to administer potential changes down the road. The Mid-Columbia Building Appeals Commission, I am almost done with the initial draft documents to resurrect the commission. It's my intention to have that ready for the May 8th city managers, county administrators meeting to start getting input at that level. Once we get the bugs worked out, then a proposal will come back ultimately to the COG board to approve whether the COG whether you all would approve the COG administering the Building Appeals Commission once it's resurrected. So stay tuned, still a work in progress. For operations update, staffing changes, we are going to be refilling our operations coordinator position. So our intention is to post that role and our grant navigator job at the end of this month. So we'll be actively hiring for both of those positions. All of the 2024 dues from our members have been paid. Thank you, everyone. And I've been making member presentations to our governing bodies to date. I have presented to Benton City, Port of Benton, and Port of Kennewick. I've got the City of Prosser coming up next week, and others scheduled over the next month or 6 weeks or so. So we'll continue with those updates. Our annual audit and financial reporting, we have a deadline coming up the end of May to have our financial reports, not only for the COG, but for both of the PFDs as well. So our contracted bookkeeper and I are in the process of working through that. We were contacted by the state auditor's office and advised that based on our organization's financial size and our good standing, which we love to hear, that they offered that we could shift our accountability audit to every 3 years instead of every year. We are still required to have an annual financial audit and an annual federal single audit because of all of our federal program funding. But the accountability audit is the one that looks at our adherence to our own internal procedures and those kinds of activities. So our next accountability audit will be in 2026 and will cover the years of 23, 24, and 25. One tiny piece we won't have to look at every year, and a nice vote of confidence when the auditor says, hey, we don't have to look at your stuff as often. So go COG, I'm happy. Yeah, that's it for me for general update. I didn't bore you all with a lot of background today on the brownfields program and the broadband program and all of those committees. They're all still meeting and working, nothing particularly noteworthy for the board meeting today. They're all just in progress, but there's more detail in your packet.
Excellent. Any comments, questions? Anything else? Please go.
I just want to compliment Michelle because she did an excellent job at the Port of Kennewick presentation. It's something that we've talked about for a long time. It's getting the word out on what the Council of Governments is and what it can do for our jurisdictional partners. And the fact that she's going out there and doing that and she did a great job at the Port of Kennewick. And I think my fellow commissioners and staff kind of understood what the COG was and what it represented. So Michelle, thank you.
Thank you, Skip.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to the presentation to West Richland.
Yes, thank you guys are in 2 weeks, I think.
Excellent. All right. And congratulations on the accountability audit to BFCOG. I know staff has been working hard from previous years, having a bit more difficult of a time at that, and we've really been able to clean up the books, it looks like. So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So no other questions. Then we will go next into the action items, which I believe there are no action items.
We have none.
So then next we'll go to new business, and we have a discussion which it sounded like Michelle, you would be interested in leading that discussion?
Yes. So in lieu of doing a 5 facts informational presentation at the beginning of the meeting, we thought it might be nice to have a discussion amongst the board members about the general topic of reaching regional consensus so that we can speak with one voice. And I think that's been a challenge for the staff of the COG specifically. In fact, Senator Banky's comment about having the COG lead out and speak about priority of a regional project, for example, is just one of those times where we have state agencies and other partners that look to the COG and really want us to be able to speak out on behalf of the region. And yet, as we are representing multiple jurisdictions who all have their own priorities and other things as well, it's walking that fine line for us between really speaking as the regional planning agency and not crossing the line to take that too far. So the other side of that, though, is that there's not a lot of clarity, whether it's from the COG or TRIDEC or any other organization, as far as the best means and mode of getting regional consensus on a particular topic. If we use a hypothetical example, let's say that we had an opportunity to advocate at a federal level for a single massive transportation funding opportunity. We could do one in the region, and we needed to come to consensus as a region on what that is. Let's say we had to decide between a 4th river crossing and alleviating all of the at-grade rail crossings across the region. Both would be massive level projects. It would require the consensus and advocacy on behalf of our entire region to do that. How do we get to that point that we could reach a regional consensus to put our weight behind something like that and give ourselves a shot at advocating for something. That's just a transportation example, but we all have, what's a project that crosses, everyone's boundaries or impacts everyone's communities. Those are the two that are just top of mind for me that we hear about a lot, but maybe it's something else. So I just wanted to kind of tee that up and hear your feedback and thoughts on that idea of reaching regional consensus, to speak with one voice.
Aaron, do you want to add anything?
I'm just wondering, should I take off the PowerPoint so we can see it?
Oh, sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right, so who wants to kind of dive
Anybody wanna
in?
wade into that?
Yeah. I'm more than happy to start if nobody else is. Lord knows I like to talk, so. All right. Yeah, please, please.
Michelle, you sat through the CAD.
And actually,
Yes.
I apologize first, because you don't have a name tag on there. This is Councilman Bloom, who is representing Benton-Franklin Transit currently.
But, getting consensus of a group, especially when the project I would think is more essential for the region, not necessarily West Richland or Ridgeland, would be alternates for 395. I mean, that's a major problem. And, to reach a consensus that becomes has to be talked through. Which may be an additional river crossing, may not, what is it? It definitely affects Pasco, it affects Kennewick. But, those are the kind of things that reaching consensus is, okay, I don't object, rather than I want. But, once in a while you get somebody says something objects, and true consensus won't occur.
I believe that we're way beyond that point as a community where we do need to start speaking under one voice. And the reason being is that there is too many dollars out there that we may be missing out simply because we don't have a significant project to bring into the federal level in order to tap into those dollars. I do know that as a community, we have an issue where everybody's on their own side. But I think that we also have new leadership within the Tri-Cities community that we're now seeing things a little bit different, where we do understand that in order for us to succeed as a community, we have to partner with each other. And I think that the greatest impact is when we actually do speak under one voice. So I think that, I definitely think we're there. But whether that is what the leadership within the city of Richland wants or not, that is a different story. So I have to bring that up to them for them to make a decision as to whether that is something that they feel is where they want to go. I strongly believe that is probably where we land, but again, that's something that I have to discuss with the body. The other, issue that we do have is the fact that, just like what you mentioned, do we really have the willingness, from other city council and maybe boards and the other community members willingness to say, yes, this project benefits the greater community, is going to have a big impact, economic impact on all of us. It may not be crossing my specific part of town directly, but it will some way, somehow benefit Kennewick, South Kennewick, or South Richland, whichever that may be. So I think that may be important to discuss is that sometimes the project may not necessarily cross your district or your town, but you still need to be able to come together and look at the big picture. And I think if we're able to do that as a community and convey that to everybody, right before we get down this road, it will be better for everybody. But again, I have to bring that to my body, to the body in order for them to make a decision.
I think you make an excellent point. I'm specifically thinking of the regional public facilities district and how there was the issue with the voting on whether they wanted to do a very specific project that maybe wasn't everywhere, and the cities where it wasn't affecting, the vote was no. But then, for instance, Pasco broke out and did their own public facilities district and was able to do their water park, or was it water park?
It's an
Aquatic center, yes, thank you very much. More than so I think that, like both of you were saying, if everybody agrees to it, first, we're gonna have buy-in, which I think you're doing amazing work from just talking to all of the different member organizations. That definitely is beneficial. And yet, at the same time, when I'm looking at who all is in attendance, even at this meeting, and this is just one meeting, but it happens at a lot of meetings. I mean, we're missing somebody from Kennewick, Prosser, Port of Benton, Port of Pasco. And if we're gonna do this, we have to have buy-in, because if somebody's not at the meeting and a decision is made, then it might come across as, well, everybody except for maybe this particular municipality or governmental organization wanted to do this. So I think as long as we can get some buy-in, make sure that we get approval from our own bodies, because I know that I can't talk for West Richland. I am merely a representative that can convey information to and from. I think that it could be beneficial. We just have to make sure that we're watching for if there is a place where we might have disagreement and we should rather do some other way. But I think it's a great idea. And hopefully, as leaders, we can try or at least attempt to agree on things that might not benefit our own area at this moment. So I think that definitely I don't want to have a pie in the sky attitude. Is that the right phrase? I think I'm starting to mix phrases now. I want to have a Pollyanna outlook on this of, yes, we can get this to work, but I have to base it in the reality of seeing what happened with the regional facility district.
And I think that, you touch on the rules of the game. And I think that is the challenge when you do not have rules of that game, and people sort of start playing a game without knowing the rules, and they start pulling and I think that's what happened with the original public facility. Everybody thought, we will get a project in or on town and we will directly benefit. And when that did not happen, then everybody pushed back. So I think it's important to understand what is it that you're agreeing to before we agree to it. And one of those things is that sometimes, or maybe a year, you won't be able to get a project accomplished in your community. But we're looking at the bigger picture. And that bigger picture is, if for whatever reason 395 happened to be a major concern for everybody, and everybody in Tri-Cities used that 395 at one point or another, and we all understand that it will be getting done, and that we all put in our weight behind it in order to make that happen, so we can all utilize that road. Maybe not every single day, but once a year. I'm okay with that. But it's understanding those rules way before we embark on that road. I think that is important, because then we won't have any pushback later on from people from another town say, hey, that project, I did not agree because it doesn't cross my town. Just like the water park, we don't want that water park because it's not in Richland, it's not in Pasco. So I think it establishes those rules way before, so there is no questions later on.
But that's what I would piggyback. Currently with the have, advice is brought forward, and everybody has an opportunity to come and object. If you know, and it's brought as that this is what we're agreeing to. And so maybe we need to develop that process for the Council of Governments to quote, let's draw up a description of what we as a community want. And, 395 goes back to the old ring road approach, which is the other bridge in Richland. which would alleviate, which would come through another interchange through West Richland and eliminate problems from Benton City, take care of the port, the inland port in Richland, take care of the 395. I mean, that's the big picture aspect that has been talked about. And there are many pieces of that.
Yeah.
Which we can take back to our councils for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if we can get people to agree on things, you're absolutely right. If we can use one voice as a way to, I'll use the term lobbying, but it's more than that, to ask for that support from the state and from the federal, we can get so much more positive response if we're all saying, we need this thing. And especially if we can show that we're working together and not just siloed into our own aspects of what's going to help us right this very moment.
In a more localized example, and something that, again, Erin's been putting a lot of behind the scenes work into this idea of having some very clearly defined metrics that would analyze projects for regional impact and those kinds of things. So to try and, as much as possible, remove any bias and make sure that projects would be compared equally and fairly to each other. The only time we rank projects now is when we're going through our call for projects process, which of course directly has money tied to it. So that automatically makes it a little, high stakes for ranking projects. And outside of that, we don't do that. We put together a list of regional priorities on an annual basis. But we've never prioritized those. We've said, these are the projects for each of our jurisdictions that they are struggling to, they would struggle to fund independently, and they'd have to have additional funds. So then there are how many projects? 10-ish? 10 projects on this list. Well, when it comes time for the legislature to look at capital projects or transportation funding or anything else, that list is not particularly helpful to them, other than to say, yes, the COG has said these are, significant projects that need funding. But in that kind of a scale, we do have our legislators and committee members coming to the COG as that regional transportation agency saying, hey, if I could only advocate for one project in your region, what's the one? And as the COG, we have not prioritized projects in that way to say, this is the one. If we could only get funding for one thing, this is the one. Partly because nobody ever wanted to, be in that position of winners and losers. But if we can't get to a place that we can do that, then we'll always be the loser, because there'll be another community, either because of size or because they function in a different way, that says, oh, pick us, we know exactly which one do this thing. So yeah, I mean, internally, it's like we're taking steps to try and get to where, as an entity, we can do that. But it's fraught with peril as we work on it.
When everything is a priority, nothing is a priority.
Exactly,
And that's probably
yeah.
what they're getting from us as well, is you have too many projects. Nothing is that important to you because everything is on the list. So I think I hope that we can get, to that point where we can all put our weight behind one project at a time. And if it's better to fully fund one project for one community at a time than not funding anything at all every single year, just like, oh, just enough, which is, I think, what happens to most of our communities every year.
And I think that is part of the difference with the COG, where we are not the advocate at the lobbying, advocating entity, but we are a data-oriented planning entity. And so using data and some parameters that, if everyone can agree on what those parameters are, then we should be able to have a way to prioritize those things, to at least say, based on our metrics, this is the priority. And then knowing that every jurisdiction has their own means and modes where they are lobbying and advocating for the things that they need as well. But from the regional perspective, finding a way to do that. But honestly, based on the history of the organization, that was, and I think Skip has talked about this before, staff were really kind of reluctant to raise their head up too much, just keep your head down, do the work, don't get into the fray. And yet I feel like we're doing a disservice as the MPO if we can't get to a place where we can comfortably do this.
And I was just about to ask you that question as well, is how do we compare when we, look at ourselves among all our communities with similar setup with a council of governments like you guys? Do they speak under one voice, or are they in disarray like us, where we all want everything all at once at the same time? And how successful are they compared to us? And do you see the benefit of going that route? And obviously you guys are the experts, and so we should be relying on your advice based on what you see out on the street, right? So I think we probably should be getting advice from you guys who are in this business day in and day out to tell us, based on what we see out there, this structure is not working out for us guys, we need to change it. And I think maybe that's what I'm looking for you guys, is advice based on your expertise, because that's what you bring to the table, your expertise based on what you see out there, and we don't. So what is that?
I would defer a little bit to Aaron for that, because he's got a little better sense of understanding of some of the makeup of the MPOs. But what I will say, it's sometimes very hard to compare. You'll have, let's say, Yakima Valley MPO, where you have one kind of metro city and then many small communities. It's much easier for them to kind of prioritize some of that and rally the troops than for us, where we have, effectively 4 considered urban large communities, plus our rurals to manage. And then you also have different structures. The one we run into resistance about is the SRTC, PSRC, thank you, PSRC, the greater Seattle area MPO, because they actually have funding authority and some legality that doesn't apply to an MPO like us. That's not something that our communities conferred that power over to the MPO. And in many of the communities who participate in that, we have staff who have come over from communities that have had experience with that MPO, and they're really resistant because they feel like that MPO had a lot of power and kind of enforced its will on some of the communities. And they're like, no, we don't want that. We don't want that either. So there is some resistance based on negative experiences with some very large MPOs, but yeah, I hear the point that, for us, it would be about bringing back that information and more of that definition of what we would want to see and why we want to see it, and what's the value back to the region.
So just as a quick, I'd say, insider baseball thing, so we are the 3rd largest metro area in the state. As an MPO, kind of internally, we are staffed at the level of about the 15th largest place in the state. So looking at that as a broader thing, Spokane has about a staff of, I'd say, 15 to 20 people. On the MPO side, we have a staff of 5. So that's how much is being pushed into their organization, regional benefit. I know we have different geographies. We have 3 big cities, 1 smaller city, and outlying cities, and we have then in Vancouver, 1 big city that handles all the different counties. I would say from an MPO point of view, it is more successful when you have one voice, and it's much easier for WashDOT to be able to identify priorities. As Paul alluded to, they don't have funding authority, but they give advice to our legislators. And if they can know who they talk to, and it's great that the senator is already saying, hey, you have to make sure you're talking to your council delegates. So I'd say coming through the COG would be absolutely the right channel.
I'm kind of curious a little bit. So I think of all of the different organizations that we have that are regional. And I know that we have some that are lobbying organizations. We've got the Tri-City Chamber of Commerce. I'm assuming that Visit Tri-Cities also does some lobbying of their own. Are there other regional lobbying groups? What is their focus? And is there a way that we can tie into it? And also, would we be focusing more on transportation because we're the MPO, or would we be focusing also on economic development, which I would assume the Chamber of Commerce would also, and Visit Tri-Cities would also be focusing on?
I think it's really important that the clear difference between, for example, if we could get to the place that we could prioritize activities, whether it was a transportation project or something for economic development, that our planning function supports the reason that we have prioritized that, then we make that information available to those entities that are doing the lobbying and the proactive work. So, for example, the Ledge Council, which is the joint group of all the chambers, we give them our transportation priorities as they are setting up their legislative agenda. Now, priorities being, here's our 10 big projects that need funding, y'all figure out how to lobby for those. But we are not the entity going out and doing that lobbying. It's really using that data to come up to some consensus on behalf of the region. But then it's also, as our organization, getting the buy-in of all of our board members so that if we have a methodology that says this is how a prioritization was determined, and that comes before the board, and the board says, yes, we approve this prioritization, but we also have to have something from the board that then says, yes, we not only have adopted this, but that enables us as staff that when we do get that phone call or we are asked to provide that information, we can confidently say, yes, if you could only do one thing, this is the one that our organization says, is the top of the list.
So then we've got the Legislative Council is one lobbying group. What are the other area lobbying groups?
Well, I think that
TRIDEC's the main.
TRIDEC for economic development. And then, each of your jurisdictions may or may not have an individual lobbyist that you work with. And then you get to AWC and the Association of Counties and the different entities that are also supporting the local governments. Now, outside of that, you all are our customer. So those are really going to be the only entities that we're integrating with. And usually transportation is the area that we get questions. A little bit economic development wise, but mostly that'll be TRIDEC first and foremost, because you're talking about a state budget, State Department of Commerce, and TRIDEC is the economic development organization under the state for the Department of Commerce. We're the federally recognized economic development entity under a federal EDA. TRIDEC is the state economic development organization under Department of Commerce. So we'd like to collaborate together, but we're really advocating at two different levels. Yeah.
Okay. So then the Legislative Council, they are pretty much just lobbying on all of the things, more than just economic development?
Well, yeah, because the Legislative Council, that's really it's the Chambers of Commerce, so their focus is business, pro-business policy. Zach has been a member of the Ledge Council in the past. You can probably speak to that more than I can. But.
Yeah, I think the Ledge Council's channelized their focus a little bit. It used to be a 12 to 15 page collection of white papers, just encompassing a whole slew of priorities from the region. This year, the Ledge Council, or this last session, focused on 6 high-level priorities that can impact, economic development and job creation. So like Energy Northwest, their $25 million appropriation was a supported issue. It was very targeted 6 issues. They talked a lot about like the Richland Northwest Energy Park. So some very targeted things that do impact our communities, and we had a lot, and they had a lot more community involvement and individual city involvement, but it was also tying into focusing on items of the legislature that can be conducive to business and, high level primary sector job growth for the communities.
Okay. Because I'm thinking that if we're looking for what we want to do, we have to figure out which roles are already taken so that we can figure out where to fit ourselves in, where in the cog do we fit, so to speak, or where does the cog fit in the machine?
That's right.
And sorry,
So one of the things that I was gonna say in regards to what Zach just mentioned is that I've attended the Tri-Cities Legislative Council for many years. And I probably could say these last year is what I feel was the most successful year of all. And the reason behind is because of what you guys are trying to do with the COG, which is everybody spoke under one voice when it came to energy. We were going after very specific, very targeted items. Some of those were the 2 nuclear. Yes, it was all Richland, but at the end of the day, everybody benefits because those jobs are not just for people that live in Richland. If you go up into Badger in the morning, you see the majority of the vehicles come from Kennewick and Pasco. So it benefits everybody, yet we spoke under one voice, and I felt like we were very successful. This was a very successful Tri-Cities Legislative Council because they decided to do something very different, which is let's go after one specific area and target that very hard and see what we can get. And they got a lot of stuff done this year. So I think that you guys pursuing that same philosophy will be probably the most beneficial for us as a community because of what I saw this year with the Tri-City Legislative Council. I can probably say that will be the best approach to our community needs.
I also think, at least from the last 3 years, that this is probably the first time that I felt like we were in a position to even start to have this conversation, frankly, because the reputation and performance of the COG in its history has not always been strong and has not always been well trusted. And so now that we are have a much better standing with our jurisdictions, it makes it easier to have that conversation. I think it's important. It's hard to even imagine letting someone, speak on your behalf if you don't have a high level of trust for how that's going to work. So I think that's important, but I appreciate having the conversation. I think there are probably some other topics that we'll want to talk about in this way going forward. Just as a seed planting for the future, Aaron did mention, the level of staffing that our COG has compared to other MPOs. I think we have operated lean and mean for a very long time. I started to sound that drum with everybody when I first got here, and we continued to stabilize and make sure we were doing good work, again, because nobody wants to put more money into something that's not functioning well. I now feel like we're at a place where we do function well. We are being fiscally responsible, but I think we've been too lean for too long, and that's impacting our ability to really be all that we could be as an organization. So I think that'll be something we'll talk about more going forward as well.
Will that allow you to tap into more federal funding, having bigger staff? How will that work? I'm just curious.
It really depends on what we do with structure, but like, for example, we're gonna bring on this grant navigator as a test. That should help not only us, but the rest of our organizations, tap into funding. We've been starting to talk to the members a little bit more about just thinking of the COG as a tool that could be leveraged. So there are a lot COGs that support entities beyond our role as the MPO. Again, we were not in a place that anybody would even want to give us something new to focus on because we needed to do what was in our backyard well. But it's that chicken or the egg. If we're not staffed to the point that we have some capability, we're never going to be able to use that support. Right now, we have one, well, not right now, but we have one administrative role for our entire organization. So my time is spent doing some programmatic work, some administrative, more than official governance administration activities, but actual administrative activities to keep our organization running. Legitimately, we should have at least 2 administrative positions to support the COG, and we just haven't had. So everybody bootstraps. I mean, when it comes to time to put your board packets together, Aaron's doing part, I'm doing part, Zach's doing part. Like we're actually physically doing the administrative work to put those packets together and send out meeting notices, and everybody just bootstraps it. What could we do to focus everybody's time if we weren't doing those things? So, okay.
And I'm hoping that maybe the next time we have a conversation, I know that there was a lot of chatter, just mostly there was discussion from the folks in the room, but I'm hoping that maybe the folks online and more people would be able to attend so that we can hear what everybody else is also thinking, because I think it's important to not just have two or three voices dominating topics, especially something like this where we have to have full buy-in. I see you, Commissioner Alvarez. Yes.
Hi, Kate. Hey, just want to go ahead and say I've been listening to everything that's being said, and I've been listening very carefully, and I do have some ideas and some thoughts, but I wanted to go kind of mull it over this time and maybe next meeting. But I wanted to say that, yeah, no, I appreciate all the discussion stuff.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And yeah, I have many more conversations about this before a decision is made.
Okay.
So
yes, we're not contemplating any kind of a decision at this point. We're just getting everybody's feedback.
All right. Well, unless there's any other discussion further right now, knowing that we're going to talk about it later, we can move on to our director updates. So if anybody has any updates regarding what's going on in their community, I don't know if BFT has anything interesting maybe to talk about. If they do, no pressure.
Well, we had a very interesting meeting last week, and I think we got to work through some regional, maybe not consensus, but some regional discussions, and had a number of items to talk about, specifically the topic of sales tax, and the board voted unanimously I think unanimously, maybe I have that wrong, but the board voted with the majority for the discussion on sales to not revisit until January 1 of 2026. From a staff perspective, that was really well received. Just so we could work on executing the plans that the board had previously approved, and also giving Initiative 2117 time to pass or not pass, but work through the November election. We've got a lot of work to do. Our general manager has moved on, and we're in search of a new general manager, so that's an exciting time for the agency. Transportation is really important to the community, and we're fortunate to get to provide the service that we do to people in need.
But we also, I'll piggyback on that, and it's a question that, with the aspects of 2117 passing, that means almost a $5.5 million cut to Ben-Franklin Transit's budget. The question comes down to the board, can we absorb it? How do we react to it? Rochelle had initiated a number of cost-cutting measures, which we're going forward, but $5.5 million is $5.5 million. It's about, I would say, as financial director, 10% of the budget.
It is, it's about 10% of the budget, and so I think we have some challenges ahead of us, and I think, coming from private industry for 20 years in the telecommunications space, moving back to the Tri-Cities on purpose to be here and contribute to the community, things take a lot longer, no matter how quick we want to move. I know that's true for the cities and counties, and appreciate that, having sat on city council in Benton City. But it's true for the transit too. It takes time coming out of COVID to get these vehicles we've purchased. We have a lot of funds that are obligated, and it takes time to get those items delivered. And as we look at the budget, we're continuing to make sure that we're delivering on efficiencies. We're suffering from our own staff shortages. I'm not here to complain about that, but that puts big burdens and challenges on the entire organization. So we need to deliver on efficiency, but I would say our productivity metrics that we have for delivering service are some of the highest in the nation. So I think an opportunity we have as leadership, the remaining leadership, 3 to 5 people at the organization, is to work on highlighting that and continue to demonstrate that to the board and the public, because there are a lot of, when we talk about when you're taking notes here, metrics of productivity and ranking projects. I mean, we're ranking routes, we're going through there. What we're going to do in the face of uncertainty currently is, instead of rolling out our 2024 annual service plan, we're going to recommend to the board. There are a couple changes that we need to make, but we're going to pause. We understand we need to continue on a path of fiscal responsibility, delivering on completing the projects that are in queue. That doesn't mean we're not going to have any changes to our routes. We still need to deliver some service to Queensgate. We've got to be ready for next year for the new high school in Pasco. That's part of the viability and conversations to deliver to the community. So it's how do we come in and manage those pieces in the short term and run 2 parallel plans for 2025, one where initiative 2025 passes. 2117, excuse me, where 2117 has a repeal, and we do lose that 10% of funding, and one where 2117 is not repealed, and we need to continue to have measured increases in service, continue to look at all our routes and how we operate regionally, but continue to deliver on savings too, as we work on delayed investment in technology, among other elements that have really had us leaps and bounds behind, along with delays in deploying fleet updates. So there's a lot of, and implementing our shared service model, which I think I can say that this group, even though it's public information, it's public information. I mean, we're going into union negotiations with 3 of our largest groups this year. We're looking at shared service models, and we've got to go through the right steps there to mitigate, liability and risk for the agency and do a good job for our employees who are delivering great service to the community. So I think it's not without its challenges, and we're really fortunate to get to participate with BFCOG, and it is important to work on working together for the region.
But one last thing is, I believe Richland is mentioned that Richland is proposing not to expect any additional sales tax growth next year. We only show within the transportation district, we only have 2% growth in sales tax in 2023. What is it going to be in 2024? People are tightening their belts and having to spend more on food, not gas, and other aspects of sales tax is the bread and butter of what transit.
Absolutely, and the reality is with the cost pressures of inflation, which we continue to hear and we know so well, I mean, they're just outpacing the cost of our sales tax growth. And yesterday, I had the fortunate opportunity to sit in on an update from the City of Seattle's economic forecast team, and they think we're going to continue to have those pressures. And even though some of our counties enjoy a bit more growth, I don't know that we're out of the woods yet. I don't think any of us think that. So we've got to continue to work on deploying our funds as responsibly as we can and as efficiently as possible. Which is not to say that we haven't been. I just think it's a journey that takes a bit of time to realize the impact of some of these projects and then continue on that journey. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I know there was a contentious meeting, so I was curious as to the updates on that, so thank you. Let's see, is there anybody,
I
anybody
do
here?
have a question. So now we're talking about the bike, plan, and I'm originally from Colombia. In Colombia, transportation is a very tricky thing. So what a lot of the cities have done is they have allocated one road. So there is roads for vehicles, both ways, but they have allocated one single road just for people to be bicycles, walking, or whatever. And I do know that we keep talking about, multi-model type of, system, but yet we try to push or shove the bicycles and the walkers on the same road as the road with vehicles. And I guess my question is, at what point are we going to really designate and dedicate a road where people can use it however they want? I'm not talking about four-wheel vehicles, but just people walking, people on a bike, where they can do that all year round, where they can just decide, I wanna drive my e-bike all the way to Kennewick, because that's what I remember. Every time I go back to Colombia, that's what we experience. I can go from north to the south, part of the city, on the same road. And it's all people walking, all people on bicycles. Everybody is doing the same thing. And on the other side, there is the vehicles, very much separated from people walking on the road. So I'm just curious why we keep trying to create, I guess I'm trying to find the right words. Why do we try to solve the problem by shoving the same things into the same mix? It just makes no sense to me. We keep talking about, let's make it safe for bicycles and pedestrians, right? But let's just put them right next to the vehicles, so they can actually get ahead every time. Oh, let's just put that bicycle right next to that vehicle, who is going to be most likely a person on their phone, and it's gonna hit this person, which happens every single day. Just curious, at what point are we going to look out there and talk to something a little bit different, where we say, you know what, let's just allocate and dedicate one road just for these people like me who want to go out and have a drink and don't want to drive, just want to take my e-bike, my e-scooter down the street to do that.
I think that this actually really ties into the level of service changes that are coming to be a requirement, level of service specifically for non-vehicles, so for pedestrians, the changes that, I don't know if there's something planned in the near future for a presentation perhaps on those changes that are coming forward with the level of service specifically for pedestrians now being included when we're doing planning for transportation.
Yeah, and we have, that's, I will say, a little bit baked into our level of traffic study we already have, but WashDOT is still in the process of finalizing their level of service. I'll say to your point, Councilmember Jones, so the bike plan, and the reason why we've split it into two documents is exactly what you're pointing out. So it's, as everybody's tightening their belt, as we just talked about a budget with BFT, it's very hard for jurisdictions to put a bike lane on every single road. That would be it's very not cost efficient. And also, you would not be providing the safest spaces for people to be able to get from one location to another. So the bike, within the scope of work of the bike plan, we're proposing having jurisdictions, when we say adopting a regional network, it's having 5 roads or having 3 roads from your jurisdiction saying, hey, this is where we're going to prioritize our bike investment. So at some point down the road, we could get to that where there's no vehicle access, but as we know right now with how our current system is set up, if we could have, say, using West Richland as the example, and Richland as the example, if Van Giesen is identified as one, partnering with WashDOT to be able to put in a dedicated space for bicyclists and pedestrians on that. And that could tie into the river, which then gets you to Kennewick and things to that effect of, hey, we know where we can bike safely and where those people that are going to be doing distracted driving, when they come up to a certain spot, oh, I know that I'm going to be around bicyclists more often. So I have to be actually paying attention to things like that.
And I do think, if I remember correctly, the Van Giesen, the new updates to it that are coming through are going to have a separate bike path. And I saw on like the Sylvester Street, I believe, their improvement is a separated pedestrian path where there's bike and walking. And Keene, absolutely, there's one already there right now. So yeah, I think that we're
Really,
doing it.
I
but-
guess, I guess maybe
Yeah.
it's not what I envisioned, you know, as a safe. So usually you have three roads. One is, you know, two vehicles going opposite way, and then one dedicated road just for people to use in that manner. That's how a lot of countries are going. If you go to Europe, that's where it's going. If you go to, you know, Latin American countries, that's where it's going. It's the new thing. People are basically building, even if there was a road before, they're just closing it out it's nothing but e-bikes and people walking.
So you're saying a
Dedicated-
separate,
It's just a dedicated lane that has been closed for traffic. It's just a lane for that purpose only. And it goes through all, you know, through the whole entire town. And I say that because I use it in Colombia when I go to Colombia. And it goes north, south, east, west.
I'm interested in hearing more about it personally. I do think that the level of service, once it's agreed upon, I think that that would be beneficial to look at and see if that includes something like that.
I mean, to me, it makes sense. I mean, we're all want to be able to ride something that more than just cars on the road. I think there is tons of people that go from Richland all the way to Hanford on bikes and more than them on the road.
Yeah.
People want that ability, and right now we just keep saying, no, you're just gonna have to share the road with vehicles, and good luck to you.
Absolutely. I think maybe that's something for the future that we could look to talk about, absolutely. But for this meeting, are there any other director updates? Otherwise, if not, then we will go to adjourn because it is just about noon. I don't see any others, so we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting as of noon, exactly, perfect.
We should go.
Excellent. Our next meeting is February, May 17th at 10 a.m. It's here in person or also online. All right. Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much.
everybody.